There we go. All right. Thanks for coming, everybody. Thanks for coming to tonight's Davis Family Lecture. I'm Professor Morgan here in the Art Department in the College of Design, and I have the great pleasure of introducing tonight's special speaker, Tyler Hayes. His lecture is made possible by the generosity of Gay and Judy Davis, who founded the Davis Family Art Endowment Fund in 2000 in the College of Design. And Mr. and Mrs. Davis are both graduates of the U of O, as are their two daughters, Anne and Marie, and they're big supporters of our art students. And we'd like to thank them especially for the opportunity to bring incredible artists and lecturers here every year. Such as Tyler Hayes. So Tyler Hayes was born and raised in northeastern Oregon. He now lives and works between Philadelphia, New York, and Oregon. And he received his BFA in painting here at the U of O in 1994, where he studied under a group of not only particularly great painters, but great educators, including Ron Graff, Jan Reeves, and Frank Okada. But throughout his life, Tyler Hayes has worked creatively and professionally in quite a wide array of mediums, from painting, food, music, and furniture, to ceramics, metalwork, fashion, and architecture, with a through-line focus on material science and engineering. His interests and fluencies are surprisingly expansive, yet always centered around the same soup to nuts compulsion and fetish level research into the deconstruction of objects down to their elements. While painting continues to be his primary and most consistent medium, Hayes has become best known as the creative force behind the enigmatic company BDDW, which has maintained galleries in New York, London, Milan, and Los Angeles. And BDDW continues to be the exclusive retailer and auction house of his furniture, art, and objects. So please join me in welcoming Tyler Hayes.
I got my own.
They give your own
yeah,
special
I'm all
thing?
set up, Donald.
All right.
Check. Yeah, I'm all set up.
Excellent.
Thank you, Donald. Really strange to be hearing Donald introduce himself as a professor, because we went to school here together. How do I turn that? Oh, there we go. I went to school with Donald here in the painting program in the 1920s. I started with a couple. I looked for pictures from my experience here, and I didn't find many. But so I'll just go through. I don't prepare anything, and I do a lot of stuff, and I can ramble for hours and bore you, or you can interject with questions, and I can still ramble for hours about them. So I please encourage anybody to interrupt me and stop. Otherwise, I'll just keep going. I have no idea. It's very nostalgic for me to come back here, more so than I thought, actually, to I don't know what you call them, not a crit, but met with the graduate students today. It was super inspiring to be like the old guy coming back, and just seeing it from the lens of, I guess, not being the person going to school here. It's super fascinating. Anyways, that's not that interesting. But my life, I grew up in northeastern Oregon, small town, Joseph, Oregon, if any of you have been around. And back then, it was even before the internet. It was very remote. And I'm like the first college degree in my family lineage. Grew up with progressive rednecks. Not rednecks, they were just very small town. Wound up at Lane Community College studying theater, I guess. Couldn't afford U of O, didn't really have any direction, and played music back before it was called, before everybody got signed, basically. There's a lot of great bands in Eugene, and so I found this flyer from Max's Tavern down the road. And there's one picture of me. That was my sophomore year. I think I was 21. And anyways, so I moved to, spent time in Italy. Took me 10 years of going to school between 1986 and 96 roughly. Playing in bands, going to in and out of school, bartending, whatever, and just being a Eugene art student, and studied mostly physics and computers and ancient cultures and whatnot. I didn't really start painting until my senior year because I grew up, I was paying for school and didn't think an art degree was going to help me pay my student loans back, and I was right. Didn't help me. So anyways, I started painting. Didn't really think it was a legitimate thing for me to study, but I started painting my senior year. And met Ron Graff, Frank Okada, both super influential teachers that kind of showed me what painting was, how to see, how to think about it. It wasn't just being like the kid that could draw pictures. It was more of a pursuit that any of you that are in it, realize it's a lifelong door into a whole different world if you take it that far. I don't know what you guys are all studying here. I know this is the design school now, they call it. It was the AAA school back then, Allied Arts. So anyways, if you guys have questions about any of the stuff that I do, interject. I moved to New York City after I didn't graduate, I don't think, because I didn't do the paperwork. I didn't know how to do the paperwork. I just kept in and out of school. I think my financial aid ran out, and so I moved to New York. I was actually on my way to the Czech Republic at the time because the Iron Curtain had fallen and you could buy property cheap. Then I was going to go there and just die a broke painter. That was my big life goal. Visited a friend in New York City, and I'd lived in Italy for a little bit before that, and I realized, wow, New York City's like Europe, but you don't have to ever come home. So I was like, blew my mind. I'd never been to New York. I never wanted to visit New York. I always thought you'd just get shot because I was from Eastern Oregon and wasn't intrigued by it. But then I got there and fell in love with it. And I started just finding, so I'll back up before New York. I was at the Craft Center. Anybody use the Craft Center here? The best place in the world. If I ever get rich, I'm going to leave all my money to the Craft Center. Or if I ever die rich. Do I know Tom? Of course. Who said that? Oh, yeah. Who's that? Do I know you?
No.
Oh, I know Tom, of course.
Actually, all of a sudden, yeah, just
Where's Tom?
I just saw him yesterday.
He didn't come today?
I should have mentioned.
You tell him. He's in trouble. Yeah, no, I actually went over today and it's like, is Diane around, Tom? Totally beautiful over there. An amazing resource, especially back then. It was a different school, different, you guys have, lots changed here. It's you guys have a lot more resources. The Craft Center included is blown up. But I spent a lot of time there. I grew up like a natural born maker. I had a sewing machine given to me by my grandma when I was 5, and I learned how to sew, and I was sewing stuffed animals. I'm inept at a million things, like calendars, time, space, paperwork. But when it comes to like putting stuff together, I was like just a natural born kid at it. So I was doing all that stuff and building things when I was a kid, and cooking with my mom, refinishing furniture, obsessed with stuff like that. I never really realized it was a thing I could do. It was something, or actually I had no plans to have any career of any kind. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was going to be a painter, move to New York, and be a bartender and a broke painter. That was my plan. Before I went to New York, I did get a show. I don't know if it's still around, the Mark Woolley Gallery in Portland. He gave me like a solo show contract when I had my BFA, and it kind of blew my mind that my work was like, I was selling paintings when I was in my BFA, which was not a ton, but enough that I was like, didn't have to bartend as much. Then I moved to New York because I wanted to, I don't know, just to be in a small fish in a big pond was kind of what I wanted to do. got there and found that my skills and interests and curiosities in making things and being an artist, everything kind of started to make sense for me, and I just started to get myself into, I was basically a handyman, kind of, but I was connected with a couple buddies that went to architecture school here. When I went to school here, I was friends with Donald and 2 or 3 other painters and architects for some reason. I wanted to be an architect, but I'm too ADD to get through a project like that. So I do architecture now and have done a bit of it here and there. But I worked for a couple of architects, got on a couple construction crews, wound up just obsessing over learning electrical work, plumbing work. I lived in a big loft, caving in loft in Williamsburg before it was Williamsburg, with no running water, and had to wire it and plumb it. And it was like deep Williamsburg. Super fun time to be there. It was mid-90s. And so I started making things for people for a living. A lot of it was hanging drywall and running sewage pipe and just, serious labor. And I did have a fantasy at one point that I was angry at my art school experience, because it didn't teach you anything about what you're going to do after you got out. You guys have the internet now, so you don't have any excuses for not knowing everything there is to know. But back then, it was like, you just didn't think about it. How are you going to pay these loans back? And I remember hanging drywall one day, talking to another guy that I went to school with here. I was like, man, if I ever get invited back, I'm going to get some drywall and some 2x4s. I'm going to hang a wall and mud it and tape it, and that's it. I'm not going to say anything. I didn't do it. I had the opportunity, and I spent it, but I wanted to do that because I didn't. Having an art degree was the dumbest idea in the world in some ways. But at the same time, I learned. I know a lot of artists now. Some didn't go to art school, some did. Best thing I learned about art school is that I didn't need it, but I had to go to figure that out. That's something that I thought about going to grad school so I could write that thesis, but I was done at my BFA. I was like, actually I asked my teacher Frank at the time. I don't know if you guys know him. He's an old Japanese guy, and he's like, well, you don't go to fucking grad school. What are you, fucking idiot? Go paint, get a studio and paint. So I didn't go to grad school on his advice. And so I did. I just moved to New York, I got a studio and painted, and but then there was a handyman to make stuff, and I got obsessed with finding the line between, I should run this slideshow, I'm just talking. I don't have a, wait, is this, sorry. I gotta keep clicking this. I make everything now. I'll just go through this so I'm just not just some guy talking. You can see a little about what I do. I make audio equipment, like I engineer. We do the bearings, we do stuff. We make handmade foosball tables that are hand-painted guys, 100%. We make every little part of it. Turntables. That's one of my showrooms. I don't have that one anymore. I do tile work. I dig my own clay for my ceramics operation, so we process our own clay. Some of these are just random. They just threw together a random bunch of photos. That's one of my paintings there, an older piece. So I have a giant workshop. We have every tool you can imagine to make stuff, and in every medium. I think every medium except for glass blowing. We even have our own fabric looms. We mill our own, weave our own fabrics make denim out of fabric that we weave. Let's see, this is just random stuff. Clay. Yeah, we mine our own clay right outside my studio in Philadelphia. I'm losing. I'm just showing you guys some stuff because I didn't. That's me. I don't know why that's in there. When I first moved to New York, that's my first showroom. That's a whole nother story, but we renovated this place. There's our little. I'm partners in this fabric mill in rural Pennsylvania. We have our own radio station, little podcast. Anyways, this is just to show you. I do a little of everything. I have a little restaurant in northeastern Oregon. I'm a chef in the summer when I go there, in a small town in Wallowa County. I think, is that it? No, what's going on? There we go. Ping pong tables. So furniture has been like, I kind of got known as a furniture maker, mostly, like as a career in business. When I first got to New York, I had a recording studio, and we were an architecture firm. A friend I went to architecture school here with, we were partners in that, so we did architecture, furniture. We had a boiler repair company, which we did for real. It's kind of a joke, but we did it. And I did furniture and a bunch of other stuff that I wore myself out trying to actually, once I started having employees and realizing I needed to focus. Furniture seemed like the best business for me, I think, because people were buying it. So I kind of focused on that. I was good at it, and it was kind of the closest thing to making paintings that I could find that wasn't hanging drywall. I realized I was going to have to get a job because I was living in my shop in Williamsburg, and after a while, I kind of I need to have a living. I want to have a family someday. I want to have a job. So I chose furniture because it was the closest thing to sculpture, but I didn't have to write an artist statement, and I could do it because I hated that. I used to have shows I think I had 5 shows after I moved to New York, solo shows at the Mark Woolley Gallery in Portland back then. I just thought it made me crazy. I hate art speak. I'm so allergic to it these days, or then too. So anyways, furniture was like, oh, I can make this beautiful thing, and I can sculpt the shit out of it. I can put all my love into it. And if somebody asks me what it's about, it's to hold a plate while you eat dinner, or to sit and eat that thing. And I love that idea, and I could hide behind it. So I named it after, called it, it was a chimney outside of my studio in Brooklyn at the time. It wasn't a B, it was actually an E, but I looked like BDDW, so I named my little handyman company BDDW. And then we ended up getting jobs doing demolition at midnight in Midtown, because we were like renegade dirtbags. They would do anything for money, basically. And New York City was not cool back then. It was a little rougher place. Hard to make a living. Anyway, so I have old business cards that I had made at Staples it says BDDW Construction, because we were just dirtbags trying to make a living. And then I was painting on the side. I had a studio in this caved-in warehouse, and I thought that was going to be my life, and I thought it was awesome. I could just work during the day and be a plumber and electrician and carpenter and make paintings. And that just kind of baby steps turned into, that was like 25 years ago. And before COVID, I've shrunk a little bit, kind of deliberately, for a lot of different reasons. But for a while, I had 110 employees and a showroom in Milan, New York, and LA, doing all this stuff. Still do all that stuff, just on a little smaller scale. But I think I have 60 or 70 people now, which is still a lot of people. But it turned into like a big industry of sorts, a little company. And mainly furniture, but I do ceramics. I have an art department where we do decorative art, but it's kind of fun. I should get to my paintings. I thought this wasn't structured. This is like a little electric Jeep I made from scratch. I should get to my paintings, because anyways, do leather work, and I don't know why that's in there. So these are these paintings that I do with a group of people that work for me that are puzzles. And so they're kind of like 20% collaborative. I call them my work, but I have people that work for me that do the bulk of them. I kind of design the process and paint and train, and then now they become this like thing that we repeat, that it's a little bit like a art factory of sorts. I don't really consider it my fine art. I make turntables and audio equipment. This is kind of all backwards, sorry. I was gonna I'm just going to ramble through this until I get to some of my actual paintings. Do a lot of ceramics. I'll go back and you can see some of this. There's one of my paintings. There's a bunch of paintings in here. Sorry. I didn't really prepare this very well. I just had somebody put together a bunch of photos. I think they're all at the end. Sorry, I'll go back. Oh my God, this is fun. I used to have so I had I'll find my paintings later, but you can see that there's a lot of stuff I'm missing.
You said about 2 ADD to...
Yeah, right. I know, yeah, exactly. This is my...
This looks like one of my slides.
I'll go back. I'll find the paintings in a bit. I envision this being on a rolling thing. So I do like sculpture. Painting's my main thing. Where did that one go? You can see that's not a very good picture. But that's what I was not wholly unlike when I was doing when I was in school here. Abstract painting. I was trained in, back then, I don't know what it's like now, but we were trained in life painting. I loved it. They were kind of mean, old school, Frank and Ron. Ron had a reputation of making kids cry sometimes because he'd be honest about how bad he thought your painting was. I remember one of my favorite experiences was I studied a bunch of other stuff, I think I told you, because I didn't really think I was going to be able to pay student loans back and I could draw pictures. I didn't really understand what being an artist was, but I remember I was a painting class with Ron, and that's kind of when I fell in love with it. I was painting, and it was kind of not quite photorealism, but I was really working hard to paint the thing because I thought that's what I was supposed to do, and it was good enough. I was a good painter, but I remember Ron came in, he's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" He smeared up my painting after 2 hours of work, smeared up my palette into like 3 hues, and he's like, "Look at the leaf and the space." And he just did a quick couple of moves, and it opened up. And Carrie was here, Donald's here, a couple people. Ron's a really, really well-trained old school painter. I don't know what you call it, and I was like, oh my God, I can see for the first time, and I knew what I was supposed to be doing. Could have made me cry, but it made me almost want to hug him, get around his leg, just because it was gave me direction and just said, you don't be taught me for a second how to see and how to look at something, shocked me into it, I guess. But we were trained then to paint the space between the thing, and and stare and erase charcoal for until you get the space and layer on the color onto the the leg, and anyway, there was painting from life, which, God, if you're not doing it and you want to be a painter, you can only be a better painter no matter what you do in painting. I think I said that to the grad students, different levels of painterly skill, but there's a lot of, it's not all there is to being an artist or a painter for sure, but knowing your craft. I remember it taught me, that was everything, understanding your craft. So I just did that here, life studies. I didn't really do any, I started doing some abstract stuff that came out of a little bit landscapey. You can see, sorry, that's not the best, whatever, but landscape and space and, landscape classes, a lot of that. Landscape and then nude models and plants and still lifes is what we did. All my abstract work came out of seeing those things. I don't know what it would have been like if I didn't have that training, better or worse, I have no idea. But I really appreciated my time here doing that. And with those guys pushed that on me a little bit. So these are paintings that are part of my, I don't know, tiles. I do, I'm going backwards. I make clothing. We make our own buttons for clothing. This is a reception desk. I've done a lot of commercial work. Back in the day, I used to do, these are kegs for my brewery in Oregon, Eastern Oregon. But stop me. Questions, please. Somebody ask me a question, or I'm just going to keep rambling.
Do you hand build your ceramics, or do you wheel go?
We do a little of everything. I did ceramics here. I can do ceramics, but I don't. These days, I try not to touch anything. I learned that. No, that wasn't your question at all. Sorry, but I learned early on after having employees that if when I touch stuff, they lose a chance to do better. So train people, let them make your stuff for you. It's a fascinating thing. Every successful artist that I know has different versions of having people do their stuff for them, and it's a whole nother dilemma of my wife's a painter. She does all her own paintings. Has tried having an assistant. It's really hard for her. I have 70 assistants. So we do mostly hand, slab made, brutal, kind of just putting it together and pinching it. Like it's kind of harder. We can throw stuff. We actually just started doing some more production pieces just to try it out of thrown pieces. But just rolling them up, they're kind of crappy. I dig the clay, so it's not the best clay. But there's something about the thin edge where you see the seam. We just leave it. We just kind of make it, because it's not trying to be ceramics for ceramics' sake. It's trying to be ceramics as a process. That's why we dig our own clay, and we do it a lot of like, there's a smarter term for it, a little more fucked up than normal, not trying to make it perfect. When the glaze is a little less than perfect, like working hard to make it so it's not perfect. Exactly. These are like we call it tattooing. These are leather pieces that are furniture is what I kind of mostly the business.
Actual tattoo needle on the leather?
No, it's just ink. We just call it tattooing. It's doodling, basically. Well, this is stuff we already passed. You guys saw some of this. I don't know why all the audio equipment's there.
What inspired you to make your paintings as color pieces?
We started out, I had a lot of a chip on my shoulder, I think, about not doing my own paintings. Because I kind of still, I don't know, I've evolved on not doing my own paintings. But I had a bunch of people working for me that were good painters. Like my main guy now was actually an assistant in the office back when we used to file stuff. But he was a really good painter. So we started making these, call them toys. I do a lot of like small objects that are gifts, we call them, but they're more trying to make these fetish level things, objects. So we were doing these hand painted toys, puzzles. So I would just like, do a crappy little puzzle. I'd do the box and fold it up. I like do bookmaking kind of boxes, and we would sell them, and they were kind of like a joke. They would be like goofy paintings or now in abstract art, and we do these like fake abstract paintings. And we started to have a lot of fun because I had 2 or 3 people that would come and we'd hang out after work and paint these things, and people were just having so much fun, one-upping each other, and I was having more fun with it, and we considered them toys. And if I was going to give it an intelligent critique, it was kind of like deconstructing it, making it decidedly not art. And because of that, we could get away with anything we wanted to do, which is very freeing. I don't know, any of you that are trying to be fine artists, it's really the worst choice in the world as a job or anything. My wife's a full-time painter. It's tough. She struggles. It's lonely. It's whatever. I do it when I want to because I have other things, and and then I can go to work and paint. If I want to paint, those Bather series, love those. They're not like my work, but I want to paint them, so I can because they're puzzles, and we don't have to defend them. We call them decorative art. They're not art. I don't sign them. I sign them Tyler Hayes Studio. They're my studio work, and then I have my fine art, and these sell as well. So it's also, I pay my people well. And people buy those like 10 to 1 for over my actual paintings, which I sell, but not enough to.
Where did you find yourself transitioning from thinking you're fine artist to running as a studio? By having a group of people producing your designs and stuff. When was your thought change from you're doing it yourself, or did you always like work with buddies and it just transitioned from the drywall guys and the plumbing guys?
Yeah. It was never a conscious thing. It was more just a desperate you know, and back in the 90s, and it was not before the internet. No one made good money doing anything. There was only like 8 magazines and 4 good restaurants in all of America. Cool stuff was not out there, and being an artist was a even tougher pursuit, at least from my lens. But yeah, it was kind of really 1,000 baby steps and just effort. And New York City at the time was, you know, my friends that used to live there back then, a lot of, you know, guys, people just moved there from small towns, lost people, and you wake up every morning like, fuck, I've got it. You know, you've got to succeed or you're going to die. And
Succeeding was that you're making, you can pay the bills.
pay the bills, you know, yeah. It was really like getting it over my head.
It's like, if I make this, or if I'm sheetrocking or ripping down somebody's place, or if I make this, but it needs to be done by X amount of time, can these guys be working with me? Is that
If I had more smarts, I would have processed it like that, but it was more just I had a need, I think more than the average kid, to just make stuff. I was like, if I, yeah, a lot of stuff actually.
make a lot of stuff because then it's more likely to hit?
Well, it wasn't even a business decision. I have like a bit of a disorder. I think close friends have said, oh, I figured you out. Most people don't like chaos. You can't sleep unless you're in chaos. And it's true, I can't. If I don't have 100 things going on and I'm starting a massive project that somebody would think I'm crazy even if I had nothing going on, and I'm at peace and it's quiet for some reason. And it could be because I grew up with very little access to any creative outlet. It probably damaged me. But I have like a sick need to do what I do. So it was like more of a desperation to, you know, I was like a punk rock suicidal runaway from a small town in northeastern Oregon back in the 80s. Lived in Portland, played in bands. So I was like just pent up, a really lost kid. So I think when I found that stuff, I was just, you know, my own psychological profile is a desperate need to do these things because to satisfy curiosity is almost like an addiction for me. Because if I see something, I have to get into it. I have to, you know, when I was a kid, I'd get in trouble because I'd take apart my toys. Just like my brother and I would just like, and then somehow turn it into a bomb with a motor, and we'd drive it down the road and we'd shoot it up in there and it'd blow up. When we were like 10, we were like crazy, you know, pyrotechnics. We got into lots of trouble. But it wasn't like I'm going to do this. It was more like I've got to do all this shit, and I've got to, you know, as soon as you have employees. I didn't have a plan to have a business or have employees. It was just like, you know, you need more buddies to help you lift something heavy and just get into more stuff. And
How did your bookkeeping come about?
I did it. It was tough. It was brutal. I mean, it was like not smart. We didn't do a good job at all of that. I was good at making money, terrible at saving it or spending it well. But I was always offered jobs way in over my head and just wing it, make it up, fake it till you make it, kind of. But we had a lot of like, at least people tell me back in the day that knew me. Then I had like a massive amount of integrity. If I said I was going to do it, I would die, which was rare, I guess, in New York City. So I would just get jobs offered to do stuff that was way over my head, but people said, you'll figure it out. And yeah, there was times I definitely learned a lot about getting in over your head, having employees, what it means to make a payroll. It's like, I still learn that. It's still a grind. It's a massive payroll now, way beyond what I ever thought I could even do the math of. And I don't have any bookkeepers really. I do it all. We just keep it very extremely lean. We make payroll now. It's been 10 years since I really stressed about it, but yeah, it seemed like I was running 1,000 miles an hour and some like desperate need to catch up with myself, where it wasn't like a conscious thing. There was times people forced me to, or couldn't afford to do that, didn't have the time. Furniture kind of wound up being like, oh shit, I guess I should do that because people are buying that. But still did all the other stuff, and I still am that. You know, if I make money, you know, some people would buy a Ferrari or a Rolex. I'll buy a water jet machine I don't need, and then learn and grow into it. So my shop is easily one of the biggest, most technological making shops in that's not a government contract shop. It's a massive space with every tool, 5-axis thing you can imagine, because that's all I want to do is just make stuff. And I could probably have retired if I wanted to run a smart business. I only do it to pay my people better, and I have a lot of people that have been with me for 24 years, 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, and I have about 10 or 12 people that I work with directly, and then they have a team. But all those people have been with me for 10 years minimum. They have kids. They need to make to keep them to stick around. They have to see growth. So that's the only time I look at it as a business, is to get them health insurance and back in the day. Did I answer your question, I think?
A whole bunch of them.
Yeah, I'm like not good at answering questions, but I insist you ask them. Yes. Wait, you were first. She had her hand up. Somebody had their hand up back there. Following my complete vision, you said? Oh, how do I keep my team following my creative vision? Do they come in what? It's my vision, or I've had people that have a problem. It's not for everybody, but it's not like I'm not in it for other people's ideas necessarily. My good people that are around forever, they'll have more input than they'd like sometimes, because I do lean on them and want them to be, and the people that work well in that kind of situation want to do my vision for me. And I've worked for people, and even when I'm like on a creative project, it's like someone's got to be I kind of believe in one way creatively. So I'm happy to be the grunt. Say, no, you decide. I'll do it exactly. And visualize, working through somebody's vision is for anybody that's not living off a trust fund. You're going to go out in the world. You're going to probably go work for somebody. Get good at it. Enjoying seeing somebody's vision through, because it'll get you far more opportunity to see your own stuff get done. But yeah, we have a shorthand. We're like really close, and they're not like my best friends, but we're all very close. And otherwise, I can't keep them if they don't really. It's just not. I don't make a great living for the stress that I have. So it's really about I have a million ideas I need to see get done, and they understand. It's like I'm not here to make a ton of money. I'm there to pay them well, but it's about my vision. Or I have, if it's not fun for me, I'll go work on Wall Street or something and do something else. Not really Wall Street, but so you were next, I think.
Yeah, I want to ask about your. I actually went to your showroom and.
In New York?
Yeah.
Awesome.
New York and also Milan.
Oh wow.
When you had it, and you still have Milan showroom?
No, I closed Milan and then opened up in London. Was in Milan for 8 years. It was kind of. There's more business in America. I opened London. We just closed London like 2 weeks ago. It's just not worth it. We're so busy here, and I opened up in LA, and I'm also getting old and trying to scale back. Not scale back, but I'm kind of trying to focus on my art, basically, which is true. I want to be more creative and not have.
What I want to ask is that I was very surprised to see. I'm also a furniture designer, but it's a very different furniture, but like. About the precision and then detail, but also precision and then craftsmanship that goes into some of those furniture. Like I can, see that you're very like you have a lot going on, very, like busy-minded and like. But then I can see all that ideas in your furniture as if you're doing painting, and then was very impressed with the quality of detail and extreme craftsmanship.
Yeah.
That was really we and all we went there like with a bunch of other furniture designers during New York Design Week. Remember enjoying very pleasantly, and we played table tennis and
Oh, amazing.
but like wanted to ask from that, like hungry artist becoming making furniture, and how did you transition to that, have that, hungriness to the building luxury furniture with those level of craftsmanship and precision that works to the luxury environment in in New York City.
For those of you that probably can't hear the question, sorry, she was complimenting me on my craftsmanship. I want to make sure everybody heard it. No, but then asked me how I made the transition from painter to
Yeah, like
the luxury market in New York. Is that what you said?
and also that to make that quality, oftentimes with students, they don't quite understand that craftsmanship, precision, those things are really important to communicate their ideas, whether it's painting or sculpture or products or furniture. That a lot of times is missing.
She's saying with students trying to make them understand that craftsmanship's important. I mean, you're either natural at it. There's some people, like my mom, can just do stuff with her hands like nobody can do. She'll like look at it, see the Native American beaded thing, and go, "Oh, I want to try." And she'll like blow out this whole thing. She's like, I got a lot of my hand skill from her. There's some people with hand skills that have it, and some people that don't. There's all kinds. I have friends that have zero talent that are famous artists doing messy things. I have that need to see it just, perfect, and I just get like obsessed. Sometimes it's like the worst decision there is. And then like I get off on making, this is a crappy leather coat, made crappy on purpose. I love learning the craft, and then I think it's super important. I agree, but it doesn't have to be. It's my thing for sure. But these are like these painted coats, and we do like, I kind of really get off on making really bad stuff too, like knowing when. But I think if you know your craft first, then for sure, I totally agree. Like we do like really crazy, like we have full machine shop. We make bearings. We make you name it. We make all our own buttons, even like machined buttons and horn buttons. And I kind of obsess over really, 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 really fine detail. But at the same time, it's important kind of, but I don't know if it's always important either, because messy's sometimes better. Because I have friends that are really good technicians. Actually, a lot of people that work for me, brilliant, and some of them have even better hands than me, and but they also don't know when to let up and make it pour, which is almost a bigger skill in knowing when to not make it nice, I've learned. Because I fight with some of them, not fight, but I'm like, you're making it way too nice, because we're all looking to, it's a job, and nobody cares to pay that much money for the inside part of the thing nobody's going to see. Save it for the thing that matters. I do think understanding your craft and then saving it for what matters is, I think, my skill of knowing where to put the time and energy. One of the keys to the success of my work is knowing when it matters and when to kind of make it a little bit fucked up. Can I cuss? Is that all right, Tom? I'm sorry. I didn't check. I don't know the politics here. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, we make guitars. Like I make the pickups. Made everything but the turn tuning pegs. We started doing that, but I had to get it finished. But we wind the pickups and do the whole 9 yards. It's super fun, and then they're all painted individually. Made watches for a little bit. We buy the movement, but they're surprise. All Rolexes under $5,000 have the same movement in them. It's about $250, and you can buy it and put it in your watch. So we'd make these handmade watches with a Rolex movement. I do cutlery. This is my showroom gallery in part of it in New York. I'm just going through a few more things. You can see even more stuff that I do. We have our own currency, which is cool. You can buy these coins, and they're like the gift shop, but you have to redeem them, but they have actual value to them. They're little bronze sculptures. So it's like if you want to get a gift card, it's kind of fun. Oops. So we have a little podcast, radio station. That's our little beer company in northeastern Oregon. This is our currency. It's little $1,000 coins you can buy as gift cards. That's a pie plate, but I do make pie. We have a whole denim line I make for all my employees. We started doing it years ago. So we have you can buy denim. I make little toy boats, little toy electric boats. This is where I grew up. That's the lake I grew up on in northeastern Oregon. This is a little bar in northeastern Oregon. It's all like I made every single thing in, including the hinges on the refrigerators and the stoves. But it's still in a tiny little ghost town. If you ever get to Eastern Oregon, let me know. DM me. I'll buy you a pizza and a beer. There's the hinges I made for the homemade refrigerator. The ovens we made. That's me, blurry me. This is our clay mine in Eastern Oregon, which is just the gravel pits. Clay's everywhere, by the way. That's the lake I grew up on. That's me making beer. We had an archery club in New York City for a while where we had up to, I think, 200 teams from every place, from HBO to different magazines. And we'd throw these big outdoor events. Like 1,000 people would come. And this is the world's biggest bow and arrow that was going to be in the Guinness Book of World Records, but we decided to make a bigger one. But we would shoot. We had these big events we'd do. These are our little whiskey bottles. We made some illegal whiskey. Don't tell anybody. That's our barley. We have our own strain of barley in Oregon, Eastern Oregon, that we make our beer out of, that we malt ourselves. Anyways, these are old stuff. I'll stop and answer some more questions as I get through some more. Just us making stuff. It's a painting studio. That's the programming trailer in my workshop. Turntables, painting, woodworking. We make little baseballs, buttons.
Are the paintings you're painting over the jigsaw puzzle? Is that?
No, we take plywood, we engrave it, so it looks like a real die cut, and then we paint it, and then we laser it, then we finish it, then we glue them all back down. It's like a 10-step process. So it looks like a real puzzle, but it's not die cut like a real puzzle. Questions? Sorry, had another question? Go ahead. You.
What does your to-do list look like?
What is my to-do list?
Yeah.
I have never made a list in my life. I actually have, and after like a month, I'm still writing stuff. Yeah. No, I don't make lists. I have like 1,000. When people ask me, when are you going to get to the thing? I'm like, it's 100th on my list, and it's probably be 10 years. And literally, that's how stuff happens.
What's made you want to experiment with so many different mediums? Most people who do eclectic work do like 3 mediums, and you do everything.
Like I said, that disease of just curiosity, like some rampant, like a little bit just everything. I've spoken more eloquently about it. The deeper you look into something, I studied science and physics and started in that realm, and I was talking to somebody about Carl Sagan, Kate, or somebody. I'm really interested in chemistry and science, and all the other stuff to me seems like just stuff, and then you get down into it. The deeper you look, the more everything seems the same to me. So I'm constantly looking at, I'm trying to think of the latest thing I'm into, cars. I started tearing apart cars and putting them back together like a mechanic, restoring. My son's 15 and we're rebuilding a car, and I just got obsessed with, I've done, change an alternator because I grew up in the country, but now we took every single thing out of the car, the entire wiring harness, and he's like, dude, are we going to, I was like, maybe not. We might not get this back together. But he's having a blast, and we're going to paint it. We're doing the whole thing, YouTubing it, just because I've never done it, and it's just the same as cooking, kind of.
Taking apart a car is the same as like.
I have 3 kids. My daughter's a senior in college now, but my thing with her, she ever writes a book about me, everything is soup. That's how I taught her how to cook, because I do a lot of cooking, and everything is just a thick soup or thin soup, sweet soup, savory soup, but flour, butter, if you make a roux and you make it. And she learned how to cook from that, and so we kind of joke about that everything is basically soup. That I love the stone soup, Fable or whatever. Just add a bunch of stuff and keep going. And soup's one of my favorite things to make because it's the
curiosity, it's the drive of curiosity, and making is making. So once you're in that, working with that material, you realize that other materials can easily follow into that, and then you go down that path of finding that connection and how they work together.
Yes.
Not like I'm a ceramicist or I'm.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
You learn how to pull from all different mediums, but making is making. And the drive to make is the powerful pull.
Yeah, I think there's somebody in the tribe. I kind of believe in, I don't believe in it, but instinct. You know, like when I had kids, it's like amazing how much instinct we have. There's always somebody figuring out how to, you know, nap flint into an arrowhead. That'd be my role in the tribe. Just figuring that out and being like, oh, I want to try that, make it better. It's an obsession with just the materials and the, but it is, yeah, I think it's a rabid curiosity, almost to the point of a disease though, honestly, because I have to live with me and it's just exhausting. I literally, I'm obsessed with energy transfer and heating systems and boilers, and that's why I build my own brewery equipment and geothermal. I'm working on these trying to make the fastest, cheapest, most eco house possible. These like injection molded foam. Anyways, I'm just obsessed, and I'll do that. I'll be up in 3 a.m. in bed. My wife's like, "What are you drawing? Boilers?" I'm like, "Fuck." I'm literally like making these because we reprocess all the waste from my factory and we heat our giant building with waste. This by repurposing giant old boilers that we did ourselves, with using Arduinos and stuff like that, and just love that shit. Like I don't care about anything else except for that stuff. Donald.
You still make your own paint?
No, not much. I mean, I used to make in school here. I was like making my own paint brushes, because Ron made his own paintbrush, and I was like, I can do better than that. So I would go because I worked at the craft center, go turn these beautiful things, and then hand pound the ferrules up a ring mandrel, and you know make a little box for them, and made my own paints. I was into that for a while, but not so much. Honestly, we kind of it's just too much work professionally.
Did you ever end up revisiting Czech Republic?
No.
You have great beer.
You're from there.
My mom.
Your mom. I was moving there from, I was on my way there. I think I said that, I guess. I never went back. I went once and I loved it, and that kid was gone. I'm going to go back there and die there. Somebody in the back had their hand up. Thank you guys. That's awesome. You guys are asking a lot of questions. I've done this before and like, all right, no questions. I'm out of here.
I wanted to know if you don't have a trust fund, like how long to get meat before you're out? You know?
I would not recommend it. And not to say that I have a disease, but I lived in my shop and took on more stress and got in over my head more than anybody I know ever could, and still be okay. I handle massive amounts of stress and issues and stuff. So I wouldn't even want to try and do what I did again. But yeah, I didn't have a trust fund at all. I moved to New York with like $300, and I think you have a better shot at doing it if you don't have a trust fund, because if I had a trust fund, I would be on a beach. I wouldn't fucking go to art school. I would be like, learn how to play, soft guitar music on a beach somewhere. But it took me, 10, 15 years of literally living in my shop, having girlfriends dump me because I just would never show up for stuff because I was too late in my studio. And not being a great person either. It wasn't like, it was not something I'm always proud of. Like, it's just a little bit of an addiction to like a problem. I was with somebody today. Like if I go into a coffee shop and the door's broken, I'm like, I can't stop until is this a screwdriver? And I get like locked into almost spiraling or whatever. What's that term? Ruminating over a problem. Like if there's something broken, I can just I literally have gotten up. Hey, do you guys have a screwdriver? I can just go fix that door, which isn't healthy. So I wouldn't recommend it. I have no idea how long it would take you.
What was the process of finding people to buy your things?
To buy my things? New York City, back then especially, before the internet, moved there, met a few of the right people I moved there with kind of had success. Then I opened a showroom in New York City, and it's a really, it's a pretty cool place. It's like impressive when you go in. It's like one artist makes all this stuff. There's no place like it in the world that does it on that scale, and people just come and talk about it. But honestly, you kind of got to go to where the money is and take a huge risk. I was talking to different students today about what do you do after grad school. Go to where it's cheap, really. And now that you have the internet, why do you have to go to New York? and you can just put it on Instagram and learn all the tricks. And I have friends now that live out in the country doing stuff and making a living at it because of the, it's different now. But yeah, just being really good and going to the parties, meeting people. And I was never a good salesman. I was really a build it and they will come. So I just put I still do that. I tell my people, let's just put all the effort into just making the coolest shit and not really spend our money on advertising. And they just throw good parties instead of openings. So we're not like, oh, come look at my stuff. It's more like we throw big hot dog parties in this beautiful showroom and it smells like smoked beef for, 2 weeks afterwards, but it's like super lowbrow, but people have a blast.
I guess you kind of just touched on it a little bit, but what would your best advice be for making more connections within the art world and like developing, I don't know, your sort of peer relationships? Because it seems like that's a huge reason as to why you're able to explore all these different mediums.
She asked any advice on how to make more connections in the professional creative world. I mean, you kind of have to, you just got to hang out with people and stick it out. I mean, when I moved to New York, some people taught me, old school artists or whatever, like you just got to go to every opening. And I didn't go to the art openings. I went to the furniture openings because I was like, at that point, like peddling my wares, and you just go and be nice to people and just got to keep going out. Even my wife's a painter. And she's far from antisocial, but she's not like going out and doing the game. And I'm always like, you gotta go, you gotta get to New York. We live in Philly now. That's only an hour and a half away. And she's a full-time painter, and if I was in those shoes, I'm always like, not that she's doing it wrong by any means, but I'd go up to New York once a week and go to the openings, because every time, I go once a year now, but I do, and I run into people I know. It's just like politics of kind of like anything. You gotta get out there and who you know, and you go work for. I also tell people, like, don't go to school, especially woodworking. I get a lot of people DM me for advice on to be a furniture maker. I'm going to go to this school. I'm like, go work for somebody, because you can pay 10 grand to go learn from somebody how to make furniture the old way, or you can go make 10 grand and learn from somebody who's actually doing it. So getting out and working for somebody that's doing what you want to do, I think if you wanted to start your own business or something, is go work for somebody doing what you think you want to do, because most people figure out they don't want to do that, because it's not the business of most everything. Kind of sucks. But getting out there, yeah, that's it. Donald.
So we don't have a ton of time left, but I was wondering if the painting's already in there.
Oh yeah, I should.
I'm curious about what you say about like the compulsions to like fix things.
That's me. We do our own auctions, and I used to sell and now I have a full. You guys should check it out. As a business, what I do now is I auction everything that I make. We used to do live auctions in the showroom. That's like we make these military cannons as well for our events. I'm going to find it. That's a light bulb I made. That's me first couple years in New York.
I just said you didn't do glass blowing.
Friend blew the glass. I had a friend blow the glass. It's my foundry. God, this is like a lot of stuff they put in here. These are little puzzle boxes back when they were toys. My studio. My son, a little suit I made for him. God, he's 15 now. Not as cute. Make guitars. Products, cutting board, me teaching my daughter how to make soup that looks like a pizza. But my sketchbooks are just full of I have like piles of sketchbooks. It's funny, I work on in school they taught us to do sketchbooks that keep track of them and date them. I literally go through sketchbooks and I'll be doing something, finding a little scrap, and I'm like, there's something from 20 years ago that so I don't keep track of anything like that. I'm sorry, there's some of my vintage clothing collection. Sorry, I'll get through this. Gonna go faster. Oh, this is how to turn your BB gun into a shotgun. We did this when I was a kid. We'd tape pipe on it with shotgun shells and the BB. Like 6-foot shotguns we'd make. Oh, there's a painting. Okay, here they are. These are paintings. This is within the last 10 years, these paintings. Jens, are you here? This is the white ones I was telling you about. That's old. This is from U of O. I don't know how that wound up in here. That's funny. This is from printmaking here. So these are my paintings that I do. that are more when I'm alone in my studio. Oil, canvas. Yeah, these are all within the last 10 years kind of thing. That's my painting studio in my house. So my work is in another big building that's more chaotic. Showroom in New York. Ceramics. I do a line of urinals. And if you go to the little restaurant in Eastern Oregon, you can pee in one of these. And did you know that urinals were originally designed for women as well? You back when they had that thing, and you back into it. So we have a unisex bathroom there. And have we gotten shit from Trump supporters there? Yes, we have, for having our surprisingly, that our unisex bathroom is offensive to some people. Go figure. M. Crow. I had a brand, we actually literally closing it right now in New York. We had a M. Crow. It's a general store that's been open for 100 years there that I saved from closing 10 years ago, and tried to like do more of my hobbies professionally that I wasn't able to do because I became like more known as a furniture guy. And so it was harder to, that's the London showroom, just closed. So I make amplifiers and guitars, even make speaker. That speaker is like all wound 100% from scratch, and it sounded pretty good. I make pool tables.
Ceramic base?
Yeah. Yeah, they weigh like 200 pounds each. This is the new LA showroom with a picture of the lake, painting of the lake I grew up on. So we make the pool cube. We didn't make the balls yet because I'm just, not that interesting. But we make the pool cues. Now we make we think arguably the best pool cues made because we make them like fly rods where it's a star of wood together. So it's like they're straighter. There's actually one other company we found that's doing it like that, but they're super. I make my own power strips. All my lamps, I make my own plugs for them, which is cool. No, not yet. I have fantasies of doing it. Not enough time. I'm putting an addition onto our house we got, though, where we're going to retire. This is the Los Angeles showroom, gallery, whatever you call it. So I basically have my own galleries. Like I represent myself, and nobody does it that way. I used to get a lot of shit from my artist friends, and then because I didn't really want to show in galleries as much as because of the schedule. I can't deal with the timing. Go ahead. I'm sorry, what next? I surprisingly don't work as hard as you'd think. I just have a high risk tolerance. Trust my people. One of my isms I told somebody earlier, it's like if I give advice to anybody, I love failing. If you're afraid of failing, a lot of people have that fear of failing. You've already failed, give up, because you got to not only learn to like it, you got to enjoy the process. Because of that, I'm like fine with stuff not working. Like people make massive mistakes sometimes on super important projects, and they're always like, "Oh my God, I thought you were going to be so upset." Or I've had like part of my shop burned down and my showroom flood, massive things that almost put me out of business. And I'm like, "Yeah, well, don't take it too seriously and just keep moving." But I spend more time with my kids than most people, and I don't sleep much, but I balance it pretty good. And when I was younger, I didn't. I did a horrible job of it. You already asked a question. I'm just kidding. You in the back.
Is creating in a community space more fulfilling for you than creating independently?
In a community space, like as a dictator of people doing my work, or do you mean collaborative?
Just collaborative.
I don't do collaborative very well just because I have, it's just not that interesting to me. I do collaborate. My good people have been forever. it's, I would say it's 10% collaborative. They actually, want me to drive the ship, but they kind of help turn down certain roads. But yeah, I never even enjoyed collaborative stuff in school. Not that I'm like, it's not out of ego or anything. It's just kind of, it's just not interesting. Because I see this thing I want to do and I know I'm into it, and then somebody wants something else. I'm like, then let's do it your way. Tell me what you want to see and I'm happy to support. But yeah, I like the community. I have a lot of friends in art and design, and I love the community around it. And even the events we used to throw, like these massive, creating a lot of creative community. But as far as creating in a community, no. I'm more of a, have a super serious vision the way I want to do it.
Making is a fetish or an obsession, and you have your hand in all of these different things that you're making all the time. How do you know when a thing is done?
I've never completed anything in my life. I don't. I have another phobia in my, like if I'm chopping, I cook a lot, I'll chop mushrooms. I always leave one. And I just can't not. I do the dishes, I leave a fork. And I don't even realize I'm doing it. My wife's like, what the fuck are you doing? You put one mushroom back in the fridge? I've never actually built and completed anything in my life.
So you don't allow yourself to have that feeling of or you're not comfortable with that feeling of
I think not, or just it makes me realize I might be missing the next thing. There's a little FOMO, is that what it's called? Yeah, I just am, when I'm cooking, I'm like tasting, and I don't want to, I don't know what it is. Weird opposite of hoarding, or I don't know what it is. But I have a mental problem with that, like completing things. I just don't, as a rule. My people that work for me are like serial completers. They're like need to complete, so we do really well.
This sounds like it might not be something you've had an issue with personally, but maybe your friends and people who work for you. You got any advice handling burnout? I have grown up doing art. I used to paint like 12 hours a day, paint and draw. I made a living for a couple of years doing character art, and now a lot of the time it's like pulling teeth getting me to do anything.
Ritalin? I don't know. No, I have no idea. I wish I could have burnout. God, I wish I could. I wake up with just too many I have no idea. Yeah, I just I really wish my brain would stop sometimes. I want to be medicated for that. Yeah, no idea.
Have you ever had any showings in upstate New York, like Rochester?
Showings?
Yeah.
No. I used to have my workshop upstate in Phoenicia for a while, but no, never had. Never even been to Rochester. Don't?
Who are your customers?
I mean, not to be like a who's who list of everybody.
Oh, I mean generically,
Rich people. I mean, say a lot of really rich people and celebrities with taste. Yeah, not to. I mean, we're in New York, and we work with the top interior designers in the world, and so my favorite rock stars, and yeah, it's been a pretty wild ride just having meetings with everybody that you can, and then it's expensive stuff. So it's always either, some of my clients are just like buying it because it's expensive, and then a lot of people with taste that have the money. But yeah, it's discerning people that have deep pockets and like to spend money on it.
I feel like we could go on for like another hour. I think we've just got about time for just a few more questions.
All right, is that 9? What's a few? Yes.
I guess it was
Hi, Julie.
with all the different medias, early on, prior to jumping into a new medium, were you doing a lot of research or reaching out to people that know a lot about?
I was around from before he asked, did I do a lot of research into mediums, and before the internet, you couldn't find out anything. You had to go read the encyclopedias at the library, and it was so hard to find out information, which I did in New York. You'd get the Sweets catalogs, all the other ways you used to find stuff. But once the internet was invented, it's like it's all there, especially now. You get on YouTube, you can find deep expert videos on everything. I'm on YouTube probably 27 hours a day. Literally, I can't sleep. I'm up literally like 3 hours in the middle of every night on YouTube with the 40 things I'm researching. Yeah, no, I do tons of reading and research. I haven't read a book in 45 years, I think. I don't read books. I've read like 4 books in 20 years. But I read nonstop research stuff, and all on the internet, because it's like you don't have to go to the library. But I do over research stuff sometimes, just because I'm fascinated.
What is one thing you learned outside of school that you wish you had learned as a student?
One thing I learned outside of school that I wish I'd learned as a student, that no one gives a shit about your ideas. I thought people cared about what I was thinking about, and then I realized, oh, I was paying these people to care about what I'm thinking and give me feedback. And when you get out, it's like, that's where like somebody asked me, I said, go work for somebody, because you're just never gonna, yeah, I think that's it. I really thought, and I've said that to when I give talks to young people, is just like, yeah, you get out in the world, just remember nobody gives a shit about what you're thinking about. And you have to go, yeah, generally, your parents might still, but teachers, if you call them, they're like, yeah, I'm busy. Say that again? Yeah, and don't care about what anybody thinks. Yeah, no, I had talked to a couple people today that were just like, I do a lot of stuff, and it's like, how did I figure out that was okay? Because people get guided when they're in school to specialize, and I was like, I mean, who cares? I had teachers tell me all kinds of stuff. They don't, Donald does not know. Neither do I. Neither does anybody. Just doing their best, trying to give you advice, but generally wrong, everything I say. Whatever you think. I tell my kids that. It's like, whatever you think is probably right, once you've hit puberty and, your brain's developed. But yeah, I wouldn't care, especially with art. If you care what people think, worry about failing, you quit, go get another job.
Just wondering, did you ever, or do you collect like old equipment, machining?
Oh God, yes. Like buildings full. I watch Hoarders, that show, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad I had some talent, was a decent looking kid, because I'd just be living alone in the woods collecting weird machinery. I literally have buildings of giant cast iron machinery for my dream shop someday. Where's
your space in Philadelphia? Is that where you have all this stuff, or you have acreage outside?
I have a big building near Lancaster, PA, is my storage, and I have a bunch of a gross amount of space. I've been giving a lot of stuff away. If anybody wants some big cast iron machinery, come pick it up. Because I'm just trying to edit. I have tens of thousands of square feet full of stuff I collected like a crazy person for decades. Yeah.
Hard not to, because
oh my God! As soon as I made it.
Getting rid of so much stuff. And
oh God. Well, like I said, I bought into an old vintage shuttle looms mill because it was closing, and I'm like, I can't keep it all, but I'll help fund to keep it open. No, when I was younger, I was obsessed with that stuff. Just all the machinery being thrown away and factories closing. And I have a bunch of old from the 1930s production knife making equipment, about 400,000 pounds of cast iron machinery in storage because I wanted to start an American-made knife factory 10 years ago. And I got it for more money than I should have spent on it, but it was still dirt cheap. Yeah, I have more machinery, stupid amounts of stuff. Yeah. So, yes.
How do you keep yourself motivated?
Oh, God, I don't have it. Like I said, I wish I had a pill for not being motivated. Yeah, I don't. I mean, get a payroll if you're worried about being motivated. Get a payroll you have to make. That gets you out of bed if you ever even think for a second that you're not going to work your ass off. But even without that, I don't have a problem keeping motivated. I wish I had less. I don't know what it is. I'm a little OCD or just awesome guy. I'm not sure. No, just super curious. I just won't stop. I just can't stop thinking about stuff. But yeah, and life's short. I feel like I haven't even started. I really you haven't even had a chance to start yet. And I'm people think I do a lot of stuff already. But yeah, I haven't even got to the stuff I'm really interested in. Or put it more like building buildings and stuff like that and architecture. Architecture and building stuff. If I won the lottery, I would just go build experimental houses with experimental processes all day. And that's kind of one of my side projects. how things are built and redesigning super eco houses with waste wood. A concrete extruder, like concrete pump. We have extruders. I'm building a giant foamcrete because I'm not into concrete. It's not super eco, but it's also lasts forever. But I'm doing these like waste. I have a little lumber mill in Eastern Oregon where we turn waste wood to clear out for forest fires into like miniature pieces of wood, and I'm designing houses out of that. And then we basically injection molded foamcrete, which lasts forever and is insulation. And I think it'll take like 3 days to build a little house, and when I get it done. And then we're gonna try and solve the rural housing issues, whatever. Projects like that I'm interested in. I mean, my other rural Eastern Oregon business is I have big plans to take over the world. It's got this, it's gonna be a public company, which I hate because it's the problem of the world, but we're gonna like, when people buy anything, they own a piece of it. So it becomes this, it's gonna like take over the world someday. You heard it here first. But I want to like build the structure of how to design a company and how that's built and how it relates to commerce and politics and stuff like that. That's what I spend most of my time thinking about. The other stuff seems just like the other stuff's just a distraction. Donald, is that a few? Are we done? Anybody else? One last?
I'm enjoying hearing this so much. I have more questions, but maybe we could have like one more for the audience.
One more.
If there is one.
Everybody's done. Yes, sir.
I knew it.
Do you have a best friend?
You looking for a friend? I'll be your best friend. Yeah, I do. Actually, I just buried one of my best friends a few months ago. But her and her husband, both my best friends. I do have a few best friends throughout my life. I like the idea of best friends. Weird question, though. I'm going to ask you why that question.
I don't know. You're just.
I appreciate the question.
Yeah. Relationships and stuff like that.
I have a lot of, I've through work and stuff, I've, lost friends through business and stuff like that. But I have a lot of old friends from grade school still. A lot of good friends. And I have a best friend, Eddie, who's a brilliant YouTube storyteller. If you've heard of The Moth, you should check out he's the grand champion. You should listen to his stories if you're bored. Ed Gavigan. Fascinating stories, that guy, like all true. He's like my best friend. His wife just passed from cancer a few months ago. You get old, you start losing all these best friends. I recommend don't having best friends. All right, did you have one more question? All right, you can ask me in person. Guys, thank you very much. Really, I really appreciate all the questions, seriously. And it's super nostalgic, and I don't know, coming back, this is where I went to school. I was one of you guys running around this place. Anyways, I really appreciate it. Thank you. Awesome. If anybody has any questions, you can DM me on Instagram. That's the only place to get a hold of me. But it's the best place. And if anybody's ever in Philadelphia, I'll give you a tour of my workshop.
Have a good rest of your day, sir.
Thank you.
Are these lookbooks?
These are books. You can have one. I got to keep a couple, though. I don't know. Donald, were these left over, or did somebody get one that was going to get?
The leftover ones.
Oh.
Were you going to give those to the people you had the business
Yes. So I gave one away. No. Sorry. There'll be an office copy, I'm sure.
Oh, no. Tom Urban wishes